Hi, my name's Tim Rigby. I live in London. I'm 26 years old. I'm a type 1 diabetic and I have been for the last 9 years. So I'd never really been introduced to it. We haven't got it in the family at all, and so it was a bit of a shock to me to get it. And what I remember was in 2011, it was around Christmas time. I was drinking, the usual as a child, the usual like Coke and fizzy drinks, and I didn't have an appetite at all, and I would constantly be going to the loo and drinking and just feeling so thirsty, and then later on I found out that was a natural reaction of my body trying to flush out the sugars from my blood, and obviously just by drinking sugary drinks that was actually making it worse anyway. And then anyway, like one day, probably after the new year, I went into hospital, and it was found out that my blood was completely poisoned with ketones, and they had to keep me in hospital for 3 days in order to flush out the poison from my blood, which had formed from just having insane amounts of sugar in my blood. I sort of said to my dad, because I'd looked up on Google, I said, Dad, I reckon I'm a diabetic, and he said, no chance, there's no way that's true. And then we got to the doctors, and the doctor ran some tests, and he just sort of told me to keep an eye on it, but essentially he missed out on doing a urine test, and he missed the fact that I shouldn't have really been like conscious. I should have been in a coma. So yeah, they basically completely missed the fact that I had these symptoms. So it wasn't until a week later after that I went back in, and they ran the proper tests, and then they sent me straight to A&E. I'd been losing weight, I remember that much, and I was quite pale. I was really thin because I wasn't eating, and you can imagine your blood being toxic and your urine being toxic, that you're just feeling like crap, looking pretty crap. And so when I got into hospital, the doctor had phoned ahead, and they pretty much put me straight into like an intensive care unit. Mum stayed with me. I don't think that I was in such a bad way that it was like life-threatening, but I remember like about 10 different like specialist nurses came to visit me because they'd never seen someone alive with such a high blood sugar. I think you're meant to have a blood sugar level between 4 and 7 millimolecules. That's what your blood glucose level should be in the range, and mine was about 45. So I shouldn't have even been like awake. Like imagine like your muscles are just it's like a car being pumped full of like pure like nitrous. Like your body's just your muscles and your brain and your eyes and everything is just getting so much sugar. It's just like ripping your vessels apart. Like, to be honest, this is the whole reason why everyone was amazed, is because I didn't feel like I should have been passed out. I shouldn't have been awake, and like I didn't actually feel that bad. And that's kind of why the whole time when I went in and they misdiagnosed it, we were just like, oh, okay, we'll go home. Like I'd never actually felt particularly bad, apart from the fact that I just couldn't stop drinking. And then I remember they hooked me up to a drip and basically replaced all my blood with normal blood, and then also hooked me up to like a drip which I think they just somehow put more water into your blood to dilute the blood, because at the moment it was like this toxic sugary mess.
Jesus.
And they just had to dilute it with like water. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I was on a drip for about 3 days.
Blimey.
And then at the end I had to just face the fact that I now had this mad disease that's not uncommon, but it's quite uncommon to get it at that age. And like I'm about to start uni the following like week, so yeah, I just had to basically face a lot of home truths.